Welcome back to The Watch. Nathan, Angry Joe has replied.
Yes, a nice long reply on the last video we did on him.
Mm-hmm. Now, it's a comment. He also replied on Twitter, so he hasn't done like a dedicated video or anything like that. Yet still, doesn't seem like he's taking any of the criticisms to heart. Mm-hmm. In actual fact, it really seems like he's deflecting a lot and also trying to gaslight and even lie a little bit, unfortunately, because he accuses us of lying. Like that's the biggest response is like, we were lying about something. And first and foremost, Joe, we didn't pick this fight, okay? You chose to target and single me out specifically. And the biggest criticism I had for you, which you have been, from the replies, deflecting and not acknowledging, which seems almost like an admission on your behalf that the criticisms are completely valid, right, was that what you did was massively hypocritical, okay? You specifically, targeted me to say it was embarrassing that I was angry about the Barbie movie. And it wasn't just about the thumbnail, because you highlighted my tweet, which was a summary of some of the terrible propaganda bullcrap, to the level, how big it was. Because my tweet was saying, this is some of the most blatant, I didn't say heavy-handed, but my tweet was very well worded, feminist propaganda I had ever seen. It seems like he agrees with me, because he's tried to do some level of damage control where he says, I was saying the messaging was heavy-handed. So do you have an issue with my criticism about that or not, Joe? Because your video was saying it does. When you're saying people going crazy and you show my tweet criticizing the propaganda, that's implying that that was also what you had an issue with, that was embarrassing, okay? Not just the thumbnail. So I'm calling you out on that. Don't try and deflect or change history about what you actually did. And the massive hypocrisy where it's Angry Joe, someone who has tried to build his brand on getting angry, is then trying to call other people embarrassing for being angry at something.
Yeah. It's like you saying someone who's playing with swords, that's a bit childish.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a nerd thing to do. It's not very cool, is it?
And he tries to address the angry thing in one of the tweet replies, and it's... We'll break down your logical process here, and I talked about my concerns of how much of a critical thinker he is, and these replies haven't done much to dissuade me from those observations.
Right.
Yeah. The other really interesting thing, so people, if you're coming to this the beef drama for the first time, I would encourage you to go watch our previous video on this, where we have some strong criticisms against Angry Joe about all of this, and we break it down and also talk about some of our feelings of the Barbie movie. We might rehash a couple of things here and there, but mostly this is the continuing discussion and responding. And so one of the things that I also noticed in his replies is what he didn't talk about. Mm-hmm. You see, when I guess people are criticized, you would usually think that the response that you have to that would be the most defensible parts, the things that you feel you can defend against, which would usually be the most egregious criticisms against you to try and save your own credibility. He doesn't do that. Instead, he latches onto one thing pretty heavily in his comment. Like I said, we're going to read and break it down. Accuses us of lying, and it really feels like he's using this to deflect.
Right. And completely forgets to actually acknowledge the things that we were calling him out on. Exactly.
The most serious things, where his response is like, oh, I can, like everything else is like, oh, gee, they might have a point about that. I can't really defend that. Because the reality is it is indefensible. And if he tried to defend some of the stuff we called out, he would just end up lying and probably make himself look far worse. And then he's tried to latch onto something he felt he could defend, and then has really failed at that because he's accused us of lying when we would not.
Okay.
So this is the kind of situation of where we are at. Let's bring up the comment now. So he starts off with, bro, don't lie to a fellow content creator and pretend your thumbnail wasn't clickbaity. That's interesting. I wasn't aware that we pretended our thumbnail didn't have any bait in it. Did we say that, Nathan?
I don't think we talked about thumbnails, but
I said that literally we can bring. Actually, let's see. Let's just show what we said. Here's an example of our very top tier thumbnails in terms of the clickbait game. So I first say our thumbnails are pretty good in regards to clickbait. It's kind of like an acknowledgement that we know what we're doing. Okay, but then I think is latched onto this next comment here. It's actually not clickbait in terms of there are different types. Veritasium has a great video on the nature of thumbnails at the moment, where most common understanding of clickbait is thumbnails that lie. Okay, that are just trying to draw people in with really insincere kind of things that are not really in the film. Where there's another, I forget what he calls it, like he actually calls it legit bait. And so I think Angry Joe, I mean, he says something about having a nuanced conversation, right? Where the nuance of what I literally mentioned here, whoosh, completely over his head. He misses it completely because he takes that, must have been taking that comment to say that we're not doing clickbait. When I actually say there's different types. What type? Different types of clickbait.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying, okay? And the Veritasium video talks about type 1 and type 2 clickbait. In actual fact, maybe we'll listen to him because it's actually important to understand if you're a creator, which you say you've been doing this for a while. It doesn't seem like you understand this.
There seems to be a paradox when it comes to clickbait. People almost universally claim to hate it, but you also see it everywhere. So why is this? Well, one of the problems is we don't all agree on the definition of clickbait. When I Google it, the top definition is, on the internet, content whose main purpose is to attract attention and encourage visitors to click on a link to a particular web page.
Now, if that is the case, I mean, everyone does that, do they not?
a thumbnail is just clickbait in general. If you want clickbait,
exactly.
don't have your picture.
And so when I say our thumbnails are pretty good in the clickbait game, I'm appealing to that definition, okay?
We could call this type 1 clickbait, and there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with it. I mean, if you didn't try to attract attention and get people to click on your links, then you wouldn't really be doing your job. But there is a second definition, one that I think more people ascribe to, which is something such as a headline designed to make readers want to click on a hyperlink, especially when the link leads to content of dubious value or interest. Wikipedia says a defining characteristic of clickbait is that it is sensationalized or misleading.
Misleading. Now, I certainly feel we sensationalize, but the thing is, though, when you hear sensationalize, people might interpret that to mean unfairly, where the thumbnail is sensationalizing what's actually in the content of the video, and when you go there, that type of content is not there. We put the angry face on the thumbnails when I'm angry in the video. Like, that's
Which
honest.
in this day and age happens a lot, so it's not like we're being insincere about it.
Yes.
And it also talks about teasers that intentionally withhold information to exploit the curiosity gap.
We actually don't do that. We actually, like, in terms of, say, look at our Barbie thumbnail, right? That is titled Man-Hating Trash. Yeah, that's legitimately, I'm not hiding my views at all from what I think that film really is.
No.
And the first title was Feminist Cancer. But the thing is, though, why is it feminist cancer? Because it's man-hating trash. And so I thought man-hating trash actually conveys my criticism of it better, even though it is feminist cancer.
Now imagine a clickbait space where on one axis you have how misleading or sensationalized it is, and on the other, how much information is intentionally withheld to create a curiosity gap.
In general conversation, that's generally been what true clickbait is, stuff that is withholding information and misleading. Okay? In that sense, our thumbnails are not clickbait at all. They're not misleading, and we rarely withhold our true views on the thing. But do they bait something to try and get people to click? Absolutely, we do that. And I think we're pretty darn good at it.
Yeah, well, it sets up an emotional feeling in viewers who want to click on it and say, okay, is it man-hating? I want to see Shad's opinion on it.
And we acknowledge that in the video where he said, I think our clickbait is pretty good. But it's actually not clickbait in the sense where it's misleading. That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
But Joe, he has so little to defend himself. That's what he wanted to latch onto and then accuse us of lying about it. Where it's like, dude, if you look at what we say in that video, we didn't lie at all. And so this is a massive cope and deflection where he's just trying to latch onto anything where he thinks he can try and criticize back, deflecting and distracting from the main criticisms we had, which by his own silence, the fact that he can't defend it seems like an acknowledgement that he knows what we criticized him on is completely valid. And so he continues on along this line. I've been in this business for a long time. Don't seem to understand it too well then. I've been there. That was about engagement for you. And it's like, yeah, we acknowledge that. Yeah, we didn't say it wasn't.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a culture war for you and your audience. Well, on that sense, yes, but that doesn't mean we are only doing this like to pander to our audience or anything like that. Like there were many TV shows where everyone was ready to destroy him because they thought it was going to be pandering to the woke left. House of the Dragon, Dungeons and Dragons, two big examples, okay? And there were, here's another big one, Picard Season 3.
Yeah.
Okay? Picard Season 3 was unironically great. I loved it, okay? And but there were people who were fighting the culture war thing that were criticizing it, I felt, unfairly, okay? And if you want to try and say that there are people who are only ever saying everything's bad because of culture war reasons, I think there might be some examples of that, but it's not us, right? And even with people that dislike the fact that we will acknowledge when something's good, even though it's made by people that still hate us and have a woke agenda and all that stuff, we're honest.
If it's good, it's good.
It's good as good. House of the Dragon was brilliant, okay? I really enjoyed Dungeons & Dragons, and Picard Season 3 I really loved. Okay? But this is what he wants to, again, this is a deflection tactic. He's going to try and say, you guys, everything you say is without value, it's invalid, because you're only doing it for your agenda. It's like, no. We stand by what we honestly believe, even if it upsets our audience. Okay? Now, it's funny. Joey, he's going to try and claim that he isn't afraid of his audience because he says things that upsets them, right? I think he's afraid of the woke mob. He is willing to upset his audience to appease the woke mob. And only when the backlash is strong enough is then he will change his views. But if he would never got any backlash, he would stick to his bad takes. And She-Hulk is the perfect example. Okay? He really liked She-Hulk episode 1, and it was only the significant backlash of people more aware than him to see how bad it was, where he tried to acknowledge, and it was a real backhanded kind of acknowledgement, where he tried to stay to his opinions, but not because he saw the backlash, everything like that. And it comes off as very disingenuous, unfortunately. So anyway, he tries to deflect and accuse where it's only a culture war, and then it's like that. But that's totally fine. But don't lie about it. What did we? We've already called you out and proved you completely wrong about accusing us of lying. We haven't lied.
No, we just give our honest opinions.
Yeah.
So
where did we lie, Joe? But that's what he's latching on to. But don't lie about it. And again, in this context, the don't lie about it is coming right after. It's just a culture war for you. Don't lie about it. It's like, no. Like I said, if it was just a culture war thing, I would never be giving any grace to anything that's coming out of Hollywood made by woke activists that hate us, right? But no, if it's an actual quality show, we acknowledge it. And so, again, proving you're wrong right there. And get mad at me when I think it's funny. Joe, you're trying to lessen what you did, okay? You didn't just think, oh, it was funny. No. You singled me out in your video specifically as essentially an embarrassing loser for getting angry at the Barbie movie.
It wasn't a joke. It was a genuine call out of like, how sad is this thing happening?
Yeah. And it was unbelievably hypocritical. Unbelievably, because you literally said there are some people who are going to go effing crazy, and it's just embarrassing. It's like, how many times have you gone crazy, right? So don't try and minimalize what you actually did and the hypocrisy of your actions here. But that's what I was trying to. I was just thinking it was funny. No, you didn't. He says, own it. Say, yeah, I made a ridiculously over-the-top thumbnail because I hate this film so much. So what? That's what we did in our last video.
There's no new information here.
Yes, like in that video, I said, yeah, this film is trash. You tried to shame me for my tweet, and I reread out the tweet, and I stand by every single word in that tweet. What am I not owning, Joe? And so this is just some weird straw man deflection thing where he's trying to create, you're doing this and that. You're not coming off very good here because it's like you can't engage and understand the nuance of someone. You're just trying to find anything that you can deflect with. You're not finding anything, so you're making crap up now. You are talking about me, Angry Joe, and now your audience knows who I am, and their feminist brainwashed minds will be cleansed when they learn of me. I am Night's Watch, protector of all men. No, we are Night's Watch, defenders of pop culture. If you're going to try and do our tagline, get it right. Feminist brainwashed minds. You look like you have a thought there, Nathan.
Oh, it's just funny because I feel like we also defend women though as well in terms of like, for example, superheroes.
Yeah.
We look at these like terrible superheroes now with Marvel, and we're like, look how they ruined them. Look how good they were previously. Like,
absolutely.
It's not just men that we're defending; it's just all of pop culture in general.
Yeah, and I think he's getting confused as to who's speaking from what because he's trying to say that this is what we're saying. We're going to free Angry Joe's audience from their feminist brainwashed minds. And no. Most of your audience, Joe, are reasonable people that have not been sucked into the woke propaganda and are getting annoyed at you for not calling it out when it's ruining media.
From what I've seen in his comment section, they can think for themselves.
Yeah, they didn't need us. But they do appreciate when people like us that have some level of a platform and a voice voices their dissatisfaction. Yeah. So, again, deflection, straw man is trying to make stuff up, right? So then he continues, you know why you do the thumbnails? Like, yeah, we know. We never hid, that we like to make thumbnails that draw people's attention. But once again, we're not lying. I stand by everything in that thumbnail. It's completely true. It's worth getting angry at for how awful that film is and how subversive and disgusting it is for its messaging, okay? Absolutely. And it's sad that you are not only getting angry, you're criticizing people for being angry about it when this was your brand. You advocated yourself as a man of the people, right? Him against corporate commander, and he's even gone on rants where, I represent the people, I am the voice of the people. It's like, not anymore. Not anymore. And this is a perfect example. If you're going to try and deflect it, your most recent behavior in attacking us for doing what you used to do shows how much of a shill sellout you've become. Okay? You could have been the voice of the people, but you're not calling out this crap. People expected it. And not far from calling out, you're actually attacking people for doing it now. Okay? And so it's pretty darn sad. And no, it's not because you truly collect Barbies and want to see a good Barbie film about Barbies and nothing else. Did I ever say I collected Barbies? I think that's him just, again, trying to add a bit of poison into the world.
Stabs in something that doesn't exist.
But when my desire to see a good Barbie film, that was actually absolutely genuine. See, Joe, I'm not sure if you understand this because you're not a father, all right? You don't have children. I am a father. I have children, and as a responsible parent, I want to know what type of media is being made for my children because children are impressionable, Joe, okay? And I know this because I was deeply impacted by the media I consumed as a child. Superheroes. I loved Superman so much I wanted to be a superhero. And that had a real-world impact on my behavior because if I wanted to be a superhero when I grow up, that meant doing the right thing. A superhero does the right thing. Would a superhero disobey their parents? And so I was a pretty darn good kid because I wanted to be a superhero like my role models in media. This can have profound impacts, and I'm a byproduct of that, okay? And so absolutely we should be concerned about what type of media is being presented to our kids. And as a result, I have been exposed to other Barbie products and media, like Barbie's Dreamhouse TV show that I mentioned in the review, I think we mentioned in the response, and everything like that. As a perfect Barbie show where it's all girly. Girls front center. Ken is absolutely a sideline character, what you would expect. But she doesn't hate Ken. And she doesn't hate men. Okay? And Ken has redeeming virtues as well, which was good to see. It wasn't meant for boys, doesn't need to be for boys, but it can still be a good Barbie film, positive. And what I was hoping from the Barbie film itself was a celebration of girliness Yes, it's good to be a girl. Isn't it great? Wear pink, be proud of it, and have fun, okay? Which was what Barbie had been for a long time. Instead, it's an entire propaganda piece of how awful the patriarchy is and men bad and we should be in power and oppress them. It's crazy, that type of crap. And so, yeah, my expectations were not fulfilled, okay? And that's genuine. Joe is now trying to create a thing. You don't really care about this. You're just doing it for culture. Well, no, I'm a father, Joe. I do care about this, okay? You might not understand, all right? But when you have children, you become far more invested in society and where it's going in the future because you want to have a better world for them. Okay? All right, so again, another disingenuous, false kind of accusation that's laced within that comment. And he continues, this corner of the internet that eats up the go woke, go broke stuff as the film marches on to $1 billion. So this is him just trying to say, oh, they get woke, go broke is a false thing. We never said there aren't exceptions to this, but generally speaking, yeah, when you put in heavy-handed propaganda and stuff like that, hijacks and ruins the actual narrative, yeah, things don't do too well. I mean, just have a look at how Bud Light is going, Joe. Is Disney doing well? Yeah, I mean, that Indiana Jones film. But this is the thing, right? I have always acknowledged that the get woke, go broke thing isn't a universal truth because if they make something good that still has lots of woke propaganda in it, it can still be successful, okay? A lot of what Disney's been making is terrible, not only because of the propaganda, but the writing is just dog crap.
Yeah.
That's actually the biggest failings in it. The thing is, though, and this might be, I don't know, Joe might miss this, right? The reason why a lot of the writing is bad is usually because they prioritize agenda over good storytelling, okay? They think about what type of message can we force into this as the primary takeaway of a film or whatever, instead of what's a good story that we can tell. And that's actually what they did with Barbie as well, by the way, okay? Barbie had great marketing behind it, which suckered a lot of people in, I think. I'm seeing a lot of people that didn't like it, a lot of people who don't care about culture war and just, whatever, and they're latching onto some of the funny things in it, because there were some funny things in the Barbie film, and just enjoying it for what, they can enjoy from it. It would have done so much better if they didn't have the propaganda crap and just had something funny, fun, enjoyable, a celebration of girliness and womanhood and whatever, instead of this horrible feminist wet dream struggle session about women's insecurities and how awful the real world is and patriarchy bad. So, okay, so it says, according to the internet, get woke, go broke. Why? Because women came out in droves to support the film. When did we say that didn't happen? Okay. I don't really get his point in terms of criticism against us on this part. He's just trying to criticize the get woke, go broke thing as a type of cope. I think. It was written for them, by them, from their perspective. You mean from feminists, for feminists, from the feminist perspective? I know lots of women that don't like this, Joe. Do you understand that it was women who were actually oppressed? Like, hang on, Joe, because I actually addressed this in my Barbie review. It's like, Joe, do you understand that men have also been oppressed? That both men and women have had sucky things in history that we've had to deal with? I mean, when the Titanic was sinking, who went down with the ship, Joe? When people landing, the soldiers landing on D-Day and everything, who are the people getting shot to pieces there, Joe? You want to talk about male disposability, all right? You want to talk about the fact that men get much more severe sentences for the same crime than women? Do you want to talk about a level of rights that fathers have over their children in court cases and stuff like that? Guess what, Joe? Men are oppressed as well. That was my take. It's not that I never said women have not had difficult things that they have had to deal with that's uniquely, I guess, situations that women have to deal with, right? But also men as well, okay? And the reality is, instead of making a subversive men versus women, where the feminist narrative is to get revenge against women and oppress them in turn, because that's the whole message behind the Barbie in the end, is they just want power and to oppress men, okay? Instead of that, which is divisive and vile, what about if we just said both men and women have difficult things in their lives and we should work together to make a better world and support one another instead of pitting men against women? I think that would be a much better message, okay?
That would be.
But Joe, because he wants to try and say only women have ever been oppressed, when there's been oppression in lots of different things for both religion, for both sexual identity, race, but also not race, also culture and stuff, right? Because women are oppressed, the propaganda in the film is then justified. Seems to be his take here. Because look, he goes on this condescending, bullcrap thing where it's like, I'm not sure if you know this, but they actually didn't have the right to vote not long ago. I'm not sure if you know this, Joe, but men have always gone to war and died bloody horribly in war to save and protect women.
And even with the voting, not every man could vote back in the day either.
Yeah, not every, exactly. Usually it was landowners.
Landowners, different races as well weren't
There
allowed.
were huge amount of swaths of men also didn't get that right for a long time. And so it's like, do you know they didn't get to, they were oppressed and sometimes in history a powerless gender. Well, it actually, it depends. Usually classes had less power, and both men and women in the lower classes would have less power. But also, women have had unique moments of significant influence and power, even in times where people claim that they didn't. We've had women queens who have ruled nations in the past. In actual fact, we've had women movements in times when they did not have the power to vote that pushed through entire reform. You know the Prohibition, when alcohol was banned? That was mostly a women's movement. Because if you have leaders that listen to their constituents, they're going to listen to both men and women.
Yeah.
Okay? And so to say women have never had a voice and never have been able to exercise their influence to achieve change in the world is complete historical bullcrap.
History's very long.
Yeah.
And across the time period,
It's nuanced, funnily enough.
Like, there's examples of men being oppressed, women being oppressed. It's kind of,
Yeah.
all throughout.
But he only wants to focus on one narrative, okay, which is very similar to, a certain ideological movement, right? It's like he's drunk the Kool-Aid and is unaware of history here. And because of this, like, they've been oppressed. And so, but you are pretending it's destroying all men. When did I say it's destroying all men? I said it's attacking men, and it hates men.
Yeah.
But no, it's not going to destroy men.
No. It's stronger than that, I think.
So what you're doing there, Joe, is disingenuous exaggeration of our point. A misrepresentation, a straw man, you could say. No, it's attacking men, okay? Okay, and then he says, and that's embarrassing. So, shifting the goalposts again. You're seeing what he's shifting.
It wasn't embarrassing to get angry about it. Now it's embarrassing the point that you're making.
No, and it's a made-up point. He's trying to say believing that the Barbie movie will destroy all men is embarrassing. We didn't say that, Joe. What are you like? So to try and find some justification in his embarrassing accusation, he creates a fiction.
Alrighty then.
Very, very honest and genuine of you there, Joe. When you talk and say they so much, they are all out to get us. They know this does this. He's referring to, in our response, where I said, they like to gaslight you and shame you and saying, why are you getting upset, bro? It's just a Barbie movie or anything like that. And it's very clear. It's not some mysterious they. It's very clear in that video, the they I'm talking about. The woke mob. You, Joe. People who are on board with that. Yeah, they. Is it somehow weird to refer to a group that, in context of conversation, everyone knows who you're referring to as they?
Do we need to be more specific?
I thought it was pretty clear. They are all out to get us. Now, I don't think I said that. I said that they want to gaslight you and shame you into silence, the woke mob, and do exactly what Joe was trying to do. Is like, why are you getting upset as a Barbie movie, bro, when there's really vile propaganda in that film? That's something to get upset about, all right? And so that's their intention. They have said that they want to do this, okay? They want to upend, the patriarchy as they see it, and give women power. And it's not about equality. Barbie was very clear about it's not about equality. I thought equality was good, but Barbie doesn't want equality. Barbie wants supremacy, power, and revenge. Okay? And so he's trying to say, oh, you're so idiot to say they're out to get us, when the woke activists are very clear about what they're doing.
If you don't see it in the movie, watch it in their interviews.
It reminds me of a chant in a recent rally regarding Pride. There was a chant where they were saying, we're here, we're queer, we're coming for your children. Video evidence right there. They're not out to get you. What are you, crazy, conspiracy theory people?
Apparently there's no problem.
There's no problem here, right? Like, the intentions from, yes, the woke activists and mobs are clear as day, okay? So don't try and gaslight us to say that there's not anything happening here, Joe, or to try and say, oh, it's embarrassing when we just acknowledge that's what they're saying. They're coming for our children. How are we supposed to take that any other way, Joe? I've seen people try and cope and deflect from that statement as like, you know the intent when they say, we're coming for your children. You are not going to be teaching your children the way that we think they should be, so we will teach them the right, true, moral way. That's what that means.
I'm holding back because it's going to shove into a whole other spiral of thing to do with... Yeah.
But they're not out to get.
No.
No, well, that's right.
They're an innocent party,
Well, I guess
Chad. They're not going to do anything wrong.
Nathan, they're not out to get us. They're only out to get our children.
Oh, sorry. That was still going over my head.
Is that what you're trying to say there, Joe? They know this does this. Yeah. And then again, it's trying to pretend quote us. They know this is sheer propaganda. Yeah, they do. Well, that's not you know it is too. You've acknowledged. I was saying it was heavy-handed. You know it's propaganda. What, you're trying to say that this is some contradictory, embarrassing, hyperbolic thing? Oh, come off it, man. That apparently went over your head, as he's referring to himself then, and all you took from it was, this film hates men. Men deserve to be oppressed. Hang on, well, first of all, the takeaway of the Barbie film was that, men will be oppressed. The Kens will be oppressed. Okay? And now everyone is going to leave the theatre and hate men. When did I say that? Okay, this next one is really interesting. Do you also believe that video games make people violent? Because you're making the same argument. Really? Really? Because if there was a video game that actually encouraged people to hate a certain group or be violent against a certain group, I would say that's really bad, that it is promoting violence. Okay? Do you... Joe, in argumentation, this is called a false equivalence fallacy. I'm not sure if you're too aware of certain fallacies because you're making a lot of them. Like a straw man fallacy, you've made multiple of those, and this is now the false equivalence fallacy, where you're trying to equivocate one argument as equivalent to another to try and dismiss the one because of, dismissal of the other one. It's disingenuous and shows a lack of intellectual thinking on your behalf because, no, these are not the same arguments, Joe. Video games, no, I don't think they make people violent, but if they actually encouraged violence, and tried to target a group and everything, because this is the thing, Joe might not know this, right? You could have a very violent film that is very anti-violent. Yeah. Or a very violent video game that is very anti-violence and makes people less violent as a result of watching it.
A lot of war films are like that, very anti-war.
Exactly. Saving Private Ryan. One of the biggest impressions I got when I first Saving Private Ryan was war is awful. Mm-hmm. Why would we ever go to war again? These poor young men just thrust into a meat grinder and just their lives destroyed. Okay? It's a horrifically violent film, but I feel it's a great film and an important film, right? It does encourage people to be violent.
No.
Okay? And so, do you know that you can also have a film that encourages people to, be angry against certain groups like a patriarchy as well and stuff like that. And it's not an equivalent argument. Do you reckon he can see the difference here? Or is he trying to reach to...
I think he's trying to reach because that's something that lots of people are... That argument of video games make you violent is something used a lot, and everyone always, gamers at least, roll your eyes at it because you go, well, that's such a broad statement that obviously it's not true.
Yeah, because you can have a film that has no violence in that absolutely encourages people to be violent just by what they're saying. Now that's interesting. Oh, hang on. Could you have a film that does encourage people to act a certain way and that they might take on board certain messages?
Of course.
Is Joe trying to say that that's impossible because video games don't make people violent, therefore every single message in film will never have any effect on anyone? Is that his stance?
I hope not, because it's
retarded.
It's a bad step.
It's stupid. But that's essentially what it's trying to say here. It's not the same argument at all.
No.
Not even close, but is trying to make it the same argument. No, Joe. If it didn't work, people wouldn't do it. But Hollywood and the activists have been very clear that they want these messages in films because they know it influences people. And children are impressionable. Okay? And when it comes to like children and violence and things like that, age is an important kind of thing to judge on. But again, just seeing violence doesn't encourage people to be violent, because oftentimes in video games, you're the good guy being violent against bad guys. Because violence isn't a universally bad thing. Okay? In actual fact, I think it's important to teach boys specifically to know how to be violent when it's needed to defend and protect. Boys should be taught that. That's important. Okay? I don't think it is important in any situation to teach people that you should hate men. When it is ever that appropriate, Joe? To actually spread bigotry like that. But it's okay because they weren't allowed to vote. So therefore, all the man-hating messaging bullcrap in Barbie is perfectly fine. Did you not know that they couldn't vote before? Therefore, the man-hating is justified. That's what you're saying. Seems like it. Well, even if he doesn't intend it, that's what his words that he wrote is saying. Okay? So, it's just funny that he would be so reductive to try and dismiss it like, it's the same argument. Wow. He goes on later. I think he mentions nuance somewhere later on. Again, then the nuance just...
Straight over the head.
Was it a good film? You liked it, Joe. This is him trying to backtrack a bit, I think.
Oh, it's like, okay, all right.
Well, he says, and in his review, he did give it out a 6 out of 10. So, it's on the good side for him. It's above average for him.
Okay.
Wouldn't I?
All right, but now it's gone down to an air.
It was certainly entertaining and funny at times.
Okay.
Then, but the messaging was heavy-handed and annoying. Hang on. Joe, you just said the messaging was heavy-handed and annoying. Messaging, okay, is put into a film to try and convey something to the audience, to get them to take on board the message.
Yes.
And you said it was heavy-handed and annoying. But before you're saying, it's just the same as violence in video games. It will never have any impact on anyone.
We should do it because, they couldn't vote before.
So
it's okay.
I gave it a 6 out of 10. Did you find parts entertaining? 1 or 2. Oh, crap. Do we agree on many things? No way. Hang on. Joe, I think you're getting confused in scale. I think 1 or 2 things was funny.
Yeah.
You seem to think a lot more was funny. And I think we have a lot of disagreements about the film still. So I don't think we agree on a whole lot regarding this topic specifically.
No.
Seeing your comment section is exactly why I feel the need to call this crap out from time to time, though. Our comment section, or comment sections in general, was why you felt you needed to call me out? Interesting.
Okay.
Is it because he doesn't like that people dislike the woke propaganda and he wants to push back and therefore it needs to be called out? That's what I think he would have to be meaning from this. He feels a need to call out this stuff when he sees people complaining about woke stuff in comment sections.
What about his comment section, though?
Yeah, I know. Before we even made the video...
I feel like there are already people talking about his review that it was an L take.
Absolutely. So he goes on to try and summarize some of the comments. Angry Joe is woke as F. Like, what does that even mean? Don't you find this embarrassing?
But you didn't even say that, Chad. How can you find it embarrassing?
Well, he's saying the comment section.
Yeah.
So, Joe, I think you hold many progressive woke kind of points. I think you said you agreed with the message of Barbie. That's a really far left woke propaganda take. So I think someone might be justified in calling you pretty woke. How is that embarrassing in calling out what you have acknowledged? I don't get it.
I didn't get it either, Chad.
You said you agreed with the message! But do you even understand the message? Did it go above your head that the message of Barbie was supremacy and revenge against men, and men all suck, and the world is a horrifying hellscape patriarchy, that if a woman even steps outdoors, she's going to get catcalled and slapped on the rear end? Like, did that go above your head? No, it didn't. You said it was heavy-handed. You saw the message, but you agreed with it. So it's pretty clear on the message and ideology you agree with because you saw it. You know what they were saying. That's pretty woke. Angry Joe is a coward. He didn't call the film, I'm thinking of saying film out, because he is afraid of women backlash. My man, my audience is less than 4% female. Well, I never said he's afraid of women. I said he's afraid of his own audience. There might have been one or two comments saying that he's afraid of, or I don't know, I haven't read them all, but I know there were a lot of comments saying he's just afraid of the woke mob, or essentially the woke mob, and stuff like that. And yeah, I think that's absolutely true. I think he is afraid of the woke mob, which is why he has softballed Barbie. How often? If it was so heavy-handed, Joe, why did you need to qualify it so much that I agree with the message? Don't come after me with the pitchforks. I agree with the message, guys.
Even though you found it annoying and heavy-handed. But it's okay, you liked it.
It comes off very cowardly. Yeah, absolutely. Because I think he was aware enough that it was just sheer propaganda, but he didn't feel brave enough to call it out as it was. In actual fact, he had to clarify everything. I agree with the message. Don't hate on me. And I think that's also why he softballed She-Hulk. As well, that is bad at his job, and he actually genuinely liked it. So again, this is him strawmanning a lot of the criticism against him, saying he's afraid of women. And he's like, yeah, my audience isn't even a lot of women. It's like, Joe, listen to the criticism, okay? Most people, it isn't necessarily about being afraid of women. It's that you're afraid of the woke mob. And it affects your judgment and your reviews as a result, and you come off as disingenuous and a sellout as a result. Angry Joe defended Anita Sarkeesian. I know we never said that. A lot of people have said it. And then it's like, bro, you're still talking about her? What, because I said 10 years ago that she is annoying and wrong? I think you probably said more as well in support. He might have, I was absent from that arc in his journey. I don't really care, honestly. I mean, look, if he legitimately did support Anita Sarkeesian when she was so anti-gamer and he's supposed to be an advocate for gamers, yeah, that would be real cringe and bad. He's trying to say he didn't. He says that he called her annoying and wrong. I have a feeling that he might not be acknowledging certain statements of support that he probably has said. I mean, people are saying that he did. I'm just going off what the reports are. If he didn't, I don't know, okay? But then he continues to try and coves like, but don't send death threats to her, and suddenly that's remembered as defending her. Well, I think you shouldn't send death threats to anyone, and that'd be terrible. Again, I don't know what, things of support that he sent her. But by the way, in terms of the death threats, okay, the criticisms people have about death threats usually is the receipts. Just show us, okay? If you got death threats, we want to see how, because here's an example. Jordan Peterson did an interview with a Channel 4 interviewer, and it was a dog crap interview, right? But Jordan Peterson just totally destroyed her with sheer politeness and logic. It's a great interview. It was one of those landmark moments in the culture war, right? Then there was all this claims that the interviewer, was it Kathy Newman, I think? I forget, it might have been that, got all these threats of violence against her. And so then someone actually decided to collect all the aggressive statements of violence against Jordan Peterson and the interviewer, which I think is Kathy Newman, and he got way, way more than her. And they were blowing these threats against the reporter out of proportion to play the victim, to try and deflect of how much of a dog crap job that she did.
Yeah.
And so this is a common tactic of the woke crowd, is to try and play the victim and blow out of proportion the backlash against them. And sometimes even things that aren't really death threats, they reword or reinterpret or something like that to try and beat. And so a lot of people are just like, show me the receipts. If it's a legitimate death threat, I will absolutely denounce as a terrible thing. Just show me the proof. And oftentimes they don't have anything to show. If they got all these death threats, you'd think that would be front and center, full page, you know?
Name shame them, you know.
I don't know to what level Joe defended or did not Anita, because it's actually irrelevant to our
this
our
doesn't
criticism against
involve
you
us at all.
It's just like the comments.
Bringing it past. We weren't here for this bit.
Again, and it's a big deflection. It's like, Joe, why don't you talk about the criticisms that we actually said about you? But most of them are indefensible by the fact that he is deflecting and making up bullcrap to try and criticize us back. And so he says, people like that are sick in the head. We've lost the ability to be nuanced and challenge our audiences. I think you've lost the ability to be nuanced, Joe, because all the nuance in our videos seem to have gone right over your head, especially the clickbait thing. We were clear as day about what we were saying with our clickbait, right? Right over his head. You're lying about you.
It was 2 sentences. It wasn't very hard to, follow along.
Figure out. But then he's like, well, this is why we can't have... No, Joe, you're why we can't have nuanced conversations, because you can't acknowledge your own failings. The very clear criticisms were placed against you. Instead, you want to deflect from them because of your own insecurities and cope. That's the reality of what's happening here. That's why we can't have nuanced conversations, because there is nuance to be discussed here. But this comment right here is case in point as the real reason why we can't, because you can't hack it. You can't confront your own failings properly in the criticisms, where if you really want to save your brand, Joe, you need to fix these things, okay? You need to acknowledge it and actually try and get angry about stuff once again. Embrace your brand and get angry about this woke bullcrap that is subverting and ruining so many great properties. Indiana Jones is the most recent one, where, they made a mockery of him, okay? He was a joke in it. In large reason to prop up a more progressive, female hero, where I love female action heroes. Alita Battle Angel is brilliant, okay? What I dislike is replacing great role model male action heroes that, I've grown up with, that had a positive impact on me, belittling them, destroying them in front of my eyes, and then trying to present a divisive, hateful replacement. Because that character was awful. She tried to murder him several times. She was a bad person. And that's the replacement that you're trying to shove down my throat and then call me a sexist for disliking? That's what they do.
Yep.
Okay? So you're the reason we can't have nuanced conversations. You're too afraid to acknowledge this stuff. Embrace your brand, actually call out this crap, and you might be able to save yourself. But at the moment, people know you don't got it anymore. And this is just another point and when people call it out, you just deflect because you're too insecure, too much of a child and baby, right? To actually take an honest reflection of what's going on here. Okay? That, hey, maybe the Barbie movie really was vile. Like the Barbie movie legitimately was sexist. It was a sexist piece of crap. Okay? If you actually believe in equality and equal treatment, you would despise the Barbie movie. But women no vote in the past, so therefore hating man, fine. That's his take. All right? So yeah, you're the issue here. And challenging our audiences. So again, it's not necessarily your audience that you're afraid of challenging. You're afraid of challenging the woke mob. That's who you're afraid of. And in terms of, I think there's multiple examples of us, like our audience is ready to just hate the D&D movie and House of the Dragon as we came in. It's actually good, guys. Okay? There were even people who you could say are involved in the culture war that despise Picard Season 3. I was like, Picard Season 3? It's actually good. Okay? And challenging our audiences. Do you know my opinion on AI art, Joe? You want to talk about challenging and pushing back against a widely held opinion, you would know that I am in no way at all afraid of going against the common trend and to be hated and despised voicing out. But does he even know my take on Elden Ring as well? Challenging the audience, which I stand by everything I said about Elden Ring. Great game. I love it. It has problems with its storytelling. Pitchforks, mob. But I never challenge my audience or disagree with them.
No, you never have any hot takes, Shad. You're very safe.
Even on Night's Watch, Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
You wanna see a take that probably, and this is what I love about our audience here. They don't have to agree with me, okay? But they are here to hear our views and
there are times we disagree.
Yeah. By the way, because I said in that review in Into the Spider-Verse that there are things to absolutely enjoy about it. You could even call it a good film, but for me, it wasn't a completed film. That was my biggest. I felt insulted by what they like, because even with a cliffhanger, you can tie it off better. That was just like the movie cuts halfway, and I couldn't stand that. Yeah. But I never challenged my audience to go against popular opinion. Apparently, or we never do that, which of course we do. All right, so there. But you do you, man. I respect the hustle. It's not just a hustle. People think that I'm trying to cash in on the culture war, and it's like, no, Joe, no, that's not the case.
If anyone knows you personally, Shad, they'll know that you hold these opinions very strongly. If there weren't a Night's Watch, you would still be around a group of friends saying these exact same things.
Yeah, and do they think it's like, by the way, like doing this culture war stuff, right, puts a target on your back massively. Like the amount of lies that are spread about me and the hate I get and the backlash I get for trying to stand up for what I believe in. And honestly, to just be as outspoken about my standards as what the woke left take as their privilege, right? They, beautiful and brave. But if I do it, I'm a vile, hateful bigot. Okay? And I thought people could just have their views, express them, and because it's important to get along with people you disagree with. That important, ability is being lost in the world. If someone has something you disagree with, they are evil, irredeemable. If you dislike the Barbie movie, you're embarrassing and just a lost cause. And they don't know how I treat people in my personal life, how I treat strangers as well, and how much I try and be a good person to the best of my ability, okay? And that's how I judge people on the left, surprisingly as well. We disagree about abortion. There's some big things that I have very strong views on. But if you try and treat people decently in your everyday life, I can still absolutely see that you're a good person, okay? And believe it or not, this is something that might be difficult for even, I think, people on the right to acknowledge, but I think it's important that we try and do this, right? I really disagree with socialism. I think it's bad. I disagree with abortion and stuff. But for a lot of people that hold those views, I can see that they hold them because they actually believe that this would make a better world as they view it. Okay? They think they are doing good according to their understanding. And I can acknowledge that. All right? But guess what? I feel though a lot of those beliefs, practices, systems will achieve the absolute opposite. And I will oppose them as a result and voice my opinions. But we should try and judge people's intent is an important part. Then you can also find people that sometimes are just outwardly malicious and vile and that they're willing to lie and anything to achieve the goal. And that's when I have criticisms again. And yeah, on a personal level, if they're good or bad people. Okay, so no, it's not just a hustle, all right? Night's Watch does not, like, if I was after money, right, I would just be doubling down on Shadiversity content, making, I don't know, a gaming channel or something like that, Like, Night's Watch started as a gaming channel, essentially.
Yeah, we just diverted here because you had...
We had things to say.
Yeah.
We had things to say, and the channel evolved as a result. But we were getting pretty good views in that gaming content early on. So if I was after money, there are so many things that I could cash in on over this. But no, this is actually something that I feel it's important about. And I'm willing to cop the hits along the way. And there has been hits, all right? Like... Shadiversity is still going strong, but to think that I haven't had any backlash or lost any viewership on Shadiversity because of what I say here on Night's Watch would be false. But I'm just sitting here for the cash in. I'm just a grifter cashing in on the game. You don't know a thing, mate. But also, just on that note, like most of the audience on Shadiversity are great, and they can separate, even if they disagree with me, right? Shadiversity is apolitical. They know they're not going to get any of that content there, and they... perfectly happy and fine, okay? And that's the standard, because that's the standard the left actually expect, all these Hollywood nutcases saying things that are some of the most dumbest, stupid, like, politically charged things online, and they expect us to keep watching their films. And by the way, we do, because I can separate the art from the artist, all right? It's when the film is actually bad or not. I admit there is a level, there's a line.
There are some actors that just become insufferable.
Yeah,
you can't watch their stuff anymore. But, I mean, if you try to judge every actor on that, there's a lot who we still go and watch their movies and enjoy
Absolutely.
it. Absolutely.
Mark Ruffalo says some of the most stupid, politically charged things imaginable. Still watch his stuff, all right? But then there are people like Ezra Miller who are criminals and insane lunatics.
It's very hard to separate that.
Yes, all right?
There is a line.
There's clearly a line, but... just saying left views, right views, that should not be the line, okay? We need more tolerance in the world to accept, because I understand there's a lot of people on the left. And if I just tried to excommunicate, disassociate everyone who has political opinions that are ASB, that's just going to divide the world. That's not what I want. We do need more tolerance in the world. Okay, so respect the hustle. Yeah, not that. It's not a hustle. Ultimately, you are giving your audience what they want to hear. Who can blame you? Oh, we already addressed this. Yeah. But the thing is, though, people do gravitate towards the views that not only support them, but gives them a voice, basically. And your audience are getting upset with you because of that. I'm so tired of all this woke, anti-woke crap on YouTube. If you're tired, Joe, why did you pick the fight? You started this! You barely come up even as a thought on our videos. If you just ignored it, I'm so tired of this woke, anti-woke thing, but I'll just drive up more drama by picking fights, you hypocrite. If you're so tired, why are you running your mouth?
And then commenting this as well.
Like, it's this doubling down cope and also disingenuous dishonesty bullcrap in this thing. All right, we'll make another video on it. All right. Again, if you're so sick on it, it's his thin skin, and he had to try and deflect and cope in some way, and that's why he couldn't resist diving back in. Okay, but if you're sick of it, you just have to ignore it. It's that easy. But maybe you will be one day. I'll get sick of it this way. Give it 10 more years and get back at me.
Is that official, Shad? Should I put it on the calendar? 10 more years to see if you're still...
So I've been doing this for 7-8 years. I'm not exactly new at this, Joe. But I have stood up for my beliefs my whole life, and I always will. But again, if you're sick of it, you're not really sick of it then. I think you're just sick of the backlash. But you run your mouth and say some of the dumbest things. And more so recently, you did it. You went after Eric July recently, and you're picking fights all over the place. But yeah, you're sick of this stuff. Shut up. Come off it. And so that's his comment. He has one or two things on Twitter, but it's kind of repeating the same bullcrap. Like, for the record, I found the message heavy-handed and annoying, but you also agreed with the message, Joe. But this whole people are going to come out of theaters and hate all men too. I don't think people coming out of theaters either they already hated men and it validates themselves, but it encourages, people to be dissatisfied. The Barbie movie really does want women to feel more victimized, okay? Feel very insecure. Like a lot of the film is about trying to get women to feel justified in their securities, when I think it would be a better thing to try and make women feel secure about themselves, happy with who they are, not insecure. But man, there is a big element of that film about being justified in your insecurities. And also, yeah, to hate men, but also patriarchy, hellscape, it's all misogynistic, evil, and all that stuff. Like, it wouldn't take this one film, but for impressionable people, especially children, yeah, this film would have an effect.
There's a quote, I've got to look it up to remember it exactly, it's talking about generational tolerances and standards. And it says, the tolerance of this generation becomes a standard of the next one. So if we tolerate this and say, okay, we don't agree with it, but it's okay, we'll allow it, it becomes the standard for the
normal for the next generation, and they're willing to tolerate even more.
Yeah. And so at that point, so we get to a point where, people will come out of the theaters being angry and hating men.
Yeah, exactly. It's a long game.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I don't think everyone is going to get brainwashed by Barbie, but it's the long game, and this is just a very significant step in that process that the people who are doing this are overt about it. They've acknowledged that that's the intent. But this is Joe again trying to say, oh, it's harmless. Why are you getting... So I'm saying, you think everyone's going to get brainwashed from this? It's disingenuous, and you're trying to deflect from it when you know that this is intended to alter people's minds towards hating men. And then he goes on, do you also believe that video games make people violent? Come on, Shad, dial it back a bit. And then Angry Joe trying to say, someone dial it back a bit. And mate, I think you need to dial it back a bit. You're doubling down, and it's not helping your case here. It is not helping your case. And we've already addressed the whole violent video game. Yeah, false equivalence, mate. Nice try, but it makes you look pretty silly in trying to do that. This is not the same thing by any means. One is legitimate propaganda intended to make women feel victimized, insecure, and to hate men. That is the overt, they have admitted intention behind this, okay? Versus video games, violent video games, they're not intended to make people violent. But if they were, I would probably call them out. If someone made a violent video game that was intended to make people more violent, that would be horrendous and vile. And yeah, I would call it out as well. And then he goes on again. So, I didn't see your comment was longer because of the whole you pay Elon monthly to be seen more thing. Oh, yeah, that's so pathetic. It's like, what people like supporting, is it X now? X plus, Twitter plus, whatever it was. Twitter Blue, now it's X Blue, I guess. That's you're above that, are you, Joe? And you're going to look down on
the blue check mark.
On the blue.
Okay.
No, it's useful. You can write more. It actually gives you actual utility. Funnily enough, I would even say it's worth the money. But Joe is above it.
It's just because it's going to someone's pocket they don't like. Well, you'll pay for like a Google service, and that's okay. But that's going to a different, department somewhere in the world. So
again, complete deflection. He doesn't acknowledge the actual criticism, the main criticism of the tweet, that is being a hypocrite, but he wants to latch on to anything that he can grasp to try and defend himself and deflect away from the real criticisms, like, you think my review on Halo was soft, you know nothing about me. And I was actually meaning his Rings of Power. I just got confused in the tweet. You really softball Rings of Power. And I don't think you went hard enough on Halo. Halo was amazingly dog crap.
You should have seen you and Oz on Halo. That was... Every episode was a screaming match, basically, of just how awful that was.
From the very first episode.
Yeah.
Very first.
It was bad.
But he wasn't calling out nearly to the level he should have. Like, again, he softballs everything. I think it was more critical of Halo than, say, She-Hulk Episode 1, but nowhere near to the level of insult that show was doing to Master Chief. Going after my name, Angry Joe, just makes you look silly and the real hypocrite.
He loves using that word, doesn't he?
He really does. And, Joe, do you understand what hypocrite means? It means that they're doing something that is, I guess, criticizing something for what you're doing yourself, okay? Give me an example. How am I being a hypocrite? Going after you for being Angry Joe just makes me look like the real hypocrite. I'm saying get angry. Yeah. My criticism is that you're criticizing me for getting angry when you've built your brand on that. direct hypocrisy, blatant hypocrisy. Calling someone, no, you hypocrite, back it up. Give me an example. You got nothing. All right? And so there we go. That's where it's at the moment. Okay? And again, didn't need to happen. You picked this fight. You decided to try and, attack me, call me out. I'm embarrassing. Literally highlighting my tweet and our thumbnails. And you just, your take on Barbie is crap, all right? Softballing you once again. You come across like a sellout shill and a massive hypocrite in doing it. And you caused this, but he's sick of the culture war stuff, yet he keeps trying to pick fights like this. Didn't need to happen. There we go. So that's where we're at with that. And makes for engaging content to discuss, doesn't it?
It does.
So thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time. And as always, stay on watch.